Hello everyone, welcome to the video, and today we're going to be going over my full flame build for Elden Ring. And this is a build that revolves around faith, so if you find this video helpful and you like the build, make sure to drop a like on the video and sub to the channel. I'm going to be making a lot of build videos in the future that are going to cover every single playstyle. So I believe that this build is actually really good. It's able to dish out a lot of damage and it's pretty good for survivability, but with that being said, let's jump right into the gear of the build. So with the gear of this build, the main weapon we're going to be using is the Blasphemous Blade, minus +9. You can get a +10 to do a little bit more damage, but basically the L2, the two-handed L2 of this weapon is going to be the main damage dealer. And then for our Sacred Seal, we have the Giant Seal, just because I have Giant Flame spells, and this boosts the incantations for them. And then for the armor, I have the Knight's Cavalry helmet, which I just have because I think it looks really good. And then the Malekith's armor, gauntlets, and greaves. I believe that the armor set or the fashion of this build looks really good. But for the talismans next, we have the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman. This enormously boosts physical damage negation, and it makes you much more tanky. And then the next talisman, we have the Ritual Sword Talisman. This raises attack power when the HP is at maximum. So since there's so much range with the Blasphemous Blade, you're going to be able to keep your health at maximum a lot and deal that extra 10%. So this is actually a staple point for the build, and you just want to make sure that you're always at 100% HP for that extra damage you get. And the next up, we have the Faithful's Canvas Talisman. This raises the potency of incantations. This is just there for the fire spells. And last but not least, we have the Fire Scorpion Charm, which raises fire attack. That is self-explanatory. The entire build revolves around fire, so this is very helpful. And for the consumables in our Flask of Wondrous Physic, we have the Flame Shrouding Crack tier, which temporarily boosts fire attacks. And then we have the Bubble tier, which significantly reduces the damage received from the next attack. So these are both incredible. Obviously, one gives us a lot more fire damage, and it is a lot more, and the other one completely ignores one hit. As for the stats of the build, we are level 144. You don't need to be level 144 for this build to work, but I am at 45 Vigor, 25 Mind, 25 Endurance, 40 Strength, 15 Dexterity, 14 Intelligence, and 50 Faith. So all you really need to spec into is obviously Vigor, some Mind, some Endurance, Strength, and Faith. You want to make sure that your Dexterity is 15, however, because you need to be able to use the Blasphemous Blade, and it requires 15 Dexterity. And as for the spells, we have Flame Grant Me Strength for extra fire damage, we have the Great Fireball, and Flame Fall Upon Them. Those two spells right there count for the Giant Incantation boost, so they actually do a lot more damage. And then we have this one. So now as I play a couple clips in the background of me absolutely destroying bosses, I'm going to talk a little bit about why this build works and what makes it so good. So obviously the damage is absolutely incredible on it, and in some of these clips I don't even have a lot of the components that went into the final build, so I wasn't doing as much damage and I was still absolutely destroying him very quickly. So there was a lot of damage missing in that fight, and I was still able to do, like I said, a ton of damage. And I think that this build really shines because of the quick casting ability of the L2. It's not incredibly fast, but it is fast for the amount of damage that it does, and the range on it is incredible, so you're actually able to cast an ability that does an absurd amount of damage from far away relatively quickly, so you can take out bosses very fast without even being touched. And that's why I didn't really go too heavy with the actual armor of the build, because I didn't feel like I needed to, and I was able to change out my talismans and change them accordingly to make me a little bit more damage oriented. And like I said, the reason why I made myself a little bit more damage oriented is just because you aren't getting hit as much on this build. You're able to stagger out bosses in just a few hits, you're able to do an absurd amount of damage, and it's absolutely incredible. Another highlight of this build is that it is actually solid for PvP. As you can see here, I PvP'd my friend a little bit, and I was able to win pretty much every single time. The Flame Fall Upon Thee skill launches a bunch of fireballs, which is incredible. Obviously, you could dodge through them, but it's still really good, and it catches people off guard a lot. Another thing that I was able to do was aim my Blasphemous Blade, and when you do that, it will hit a lot more consistently. When you're aiming it regularly or when you're locked on, it's not going to hit people because it's going to trail behind them, and they're just going to outrun it for the most part. But if you kind of unlock on them and aim to where they're going to be, a lot of times it will actually land, and I saw a lot of success with it when I did that. So if you guys are not familiar with free aiming, just try to practice it, because with this build you will be able to do pretty much one-shot damage to people, and it's incredibly easy. So now, like I always do, I want to talk about a few of the downsides of the build. For this build in specific, there really is not that many downsides. The only one I could see would be if you had a problem with the cast time being too long, with the L2 of the Blasphemous Blade, which I don't believe it even is. Also, fire incantations can be a little bit underwhelming sometimes, and you know, compared to a lot of sorceries in the game, they don't entirely stack up, but they still do solid damage, and since the main damage of this build is the L2, it hardly matters anyway. The only other potential problem I see with this build would be the fact that it kind of is a little bit squishy, which can literally be changed by just one swap of the talisman. But with these minor downsides, you can easily see that this is one of the best builds in the game right now. It's able to do over 3,000 damage pretty consistently. I think in one of these clips when I hit one of those big birds, I actually hit him for over 5,000. It was like 5,100 or 5,700 or something. But it was absolutely incredible damage, and you're able to get it off so quickly. So in just 2 hits, you could do over 5,000 damage if you didn't do it on your first hit already. So it's absolutely incredible. Great survivability on this build because the Blasphemous Blade will actually heal you up as well. And overall, I think that this is one of the better builds in the game. So that's pretty much it for today's video. So if you found this video helpful and you liked the build, make sure to drop a like on the video and a sub. It would be very much appreciated. But that's pretty much it for today. So I'll be back with another guide video soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.